Rev up your engines!
Well, here's something that, of course, does make common sense, and I gotta admit, I'm involved in it a little too. It turns out that now that people are supposed to be staying at home, the streets are much emptier than they were before. Now, I noticed that the other day I went to the grocery store, hey, instead of getting in packed downtown bumper-to-bumper traffic, there was no traffic at all. So what's happening is speeding all over the world, not just the United States, is on the increase. Police in LA say they've clocked a bunch of people going over 100 miles an hour on the empty streets because they see, hey, it's empty. There's nobody on the street, so you're not going to kill anybody, and so people are starting to drive faster. I do have to admit that I have been driving faster than normal. Normally, if it's 30, I'm going 30. Now I'm driving around, there's nobody, and I look down, and there's a speedometer. It's at 40. Well, you know, you just have these open spaces. You get this urge to go a little bit faster. I'm not doing 100 in a city. I mean, it's a 4-lane, 30-mile-an-hour road, so going 40 isn't going to hurt anything, but normally I'd be going 30, and I look down, it's just kind of natural. There's nobody around, the street's open, you're generally going to drive a little bit faster. Now, in New York City, they say their speed camera made 60% more tickets than it did last March of last year. Speeding tickets are up 20% in Washington, D.C. Yeah, when it's more wide open, people generally are going to speed more. It's kind of a natural, you just get this gut feeling. Well, there's nobody around. Hey, it's safe to go faster. Hey, found in L.A., the average speed on a highway has increased as much as 75%. So people are really starting to book it. They don't drive that slow in LA to begin with, so hey, adding 75% of that, that's a lot of speed. Less affluent places, I guess, you know, there aren't that many Ferraris in Detroit. Detroit's only got a 25% increase in speed, but it's still an increase. I guess so many people, they're going to be thrill seekers out because there's less people out there, and there's also going to be bored people. They're bored sitting around, so they're generally going to drive a little bit faster. I mean, it's an interesting side effect of the pandemic that people are driving faster now. Here we go with General Motors again. Some Chevy Bolts are being recalled 2019, 2020 because they have a problem with the rear doors. Now, they're electric cars, right? You think they could make the electric parts right. But no, the electric window in the back, they may have made some of the cables wrong. If you roll down the back window, the back electronic window, it may open the back door. Sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. It turns out they didn't make them right, and some of them, the cables were too long. They get dragged by the window when they're supposed to be just the right size so everything fits in right. Well, some of them, when the window goes down, it can hit the cable and then open the rear door. Now, I mean, okay, electric cars. Yeah, they're different technology, right? And these are electric windows, but come on, we've had electric windows for quite some time. And I never had a car that I opened an electric window and the door opened itself. The quality control of this GM stuff is just, it's not to be believed really anymore. And then to top it all off, it can do the exact opposite. If the window going up and down chafes the cable too much, the cable might not work anymore. So if you're in a wreck or something and you got to get out of the car in the back and you open the handle, it might not open the door from the inside. So it could go both ways. Of course, it's a lot more dangerous to have the door open when you're going down a highway. If it's getting kind of hot in there, I'll roll the window down. You roll down, the door flies open. And there's another older recall for these bolts too, that they may have not coated the pistons on the rear brakes correctly so that they can get air bubbles in them and not work correctly. Now, come on, people. They've been making disc brakes for a really, really, really long time. My 1967 Opel had disc brakes on the front. If they can't even make that stuff correctly, it's just unbelievable, the low quality of these GM products out there. Like Scotty says, don't buy one, and then you won't have to worry about it at all. Well, for all you giant SUV fans, the 2021 Cadillac is being announced, and it's priced from $76,195. Couldn't they have made it an even $76,000? Now, if you would have told me a decade or two back that people were going to be buying basically Cadillac trucks for $76,000, I would have thought you were insane. But that's what the world's come to these days. Now, it's only $1,000 more than last year's model. So I guess what's $1,000 if you're throwing out 75,000, 76? Hey, what's the difference there? Now, when you consider That is 10 times the amount of money that I spent on every single personal car that I bought for myself. I've been driving for over 50 years. To me, that's a lot of money to spend on one vehicle. And if you want to do the sports trim, that's $85,595. Bump up another 10 grand on that one, you know? If you got 80 something grand, you just have burning a hole in your pocket and you want a giant SUV, well, the Escalade is just waiting for you. They're all made here in Texas. Arlington, Texas, to be exact. Sonata Mayakovsky 24 says, Mercedes-Benz and Volvos from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. What do you think? Okay, well, back then, they were really solid made cars, especially the 60s and 70s. Now, you're talking about getting a project car, obviously. They were well made back in the day. But let's face it, you buy a car from the 1960s or 70s, they are really old cars. They're going to need a lot of work. And you have to decide what kind do you want to buy. Now, if you're talking about Volvo, most of those have never been collector's items, so you can get them cheaper and play around with it. And most of the old Mercedes, they're not collector's items either, unless they're an oddball like a Gullwing or something, or the convertibles go for a little bit more money. So don't pay too much for one if you get an old one, and realize that it's going to need a lot of work. Something as dumb as the rear main seal of the engine. You got to pull the transmission off. Then you have to change the transmission seals too. There's a lot of work you'd have to do on one of those things. But you want a toy, and a solid toy, they were solid toys. Go ahead and look, just check for rust first. Because if they were in the Rust Belt, or they were like in Texas on the Gulf Coast where the salt water ate them up, a lot of those older ones had no good corrosion inhibitors, so they'll be rotten inside. And if the frame and stuff's rotten, don't even think about buying one of those things. King is for good says, Scotty, how true is the concept of if it ain't broke, don't fix it? After I changed my car's oil and top coolant, cleaned the brakes, and filled up tire pressure, I just drive it and leave it alone. Wash every 3 to 5 days and pop the hood every other day. But now I just leave it, maybe gas, and go and check things every 2 months. The car's a Honda with 48,000 kilometers. Our car's best to leave it alone and not be a perfectionist. Well, to some extent, yes, that's a very good philosophy. You don't want to be too anal about your car, you know? One of my customers, they were one of those perfectionists, and sometimes this particular woman, she'd wake her husband to tell me, she'd wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and go and scrub the kitchen floor. You know, some people get carried away with stuff. Now, you got a Honda, and you have only 48,000 kilometers. Nothing's going to wear on that thing anyways. Don't be too much a fanatic, because like, that's one of the reasons I buy used cars. You buy a new car, all new, shiny, no dings on it. First time you get dings, you get mad, you get furious, right? Buy a used car that's got a few dings on it, then you're used to it, and it's not going to drive you nuts if you get another ding on the thing, you know? And it's the same thing. You're doing it correct. You're changing oil, you're putting air in the tires, and then, you know, maybe once in a while you check it. It's a Honda with low mileage. Same thing with a Toyota. Some of those things, I got customers, truthfully, with Toyotas and Hondas, that for the first 80,000 miles, the only thing they did was change the oil regularly. And they didn't even check that the air pressure in the tires. If they didn't run over any nails, they were still running okay. So, you know, you got the right car for not being a perfectionist and going fanatical about it with that low mileage on it, that well made. Capica Rule said, today I went on a fast joyride in my 2014 Honda Civic manual, 99,000 miles. I was driving fast, did a lot of hard braking. The brakes got red hot and they started to spark if I slammed them on. I saw a spark shoot out of the wheel and a bunch of little ones. Car has factory steel wheels with plastic covers. I did research, and some guys say that's normal for racing brakes, but I just have standard brake pads that I bought, AC Delco brake rotors. Is this normal or not? Well, it's not normal. But the problem with brake pads these days are companies make them, and they buy them generally from other companies. You know, you said yours were AutoZone pads. AutoZone doesn't make their own pads. They buy them from a manufacturer and have them rebranded. They're always changing materials and stuff, and if the brake pads you bought had a little bit too much metal in it, especially if they're called metallic brake pads. Metallic brake pads aren't solid metal, you know, they would just eat everything up and make a mess. They got little pieces of metal in it. And if they put too many pieces and you drove like a maniac, yeah, the little metal in it will make sparks. You know, it's not good to drive them that they get red hot anyways. It's not a race car. You want a race car, you got to have drilled slotted rotors. And today, they're going with carbon fiber stuff for race cars because it handles it better than the carbon fiber ones. They don't really really spark. They're much better made. They're harder. They got a better design, but they cost a small fortune. You got regular brakes. It just kind of ease up on it. You don't want sparks coming off the thing, but the main reason you were getting them was because the pad material, whatever it is, probably has a little bit too much metal. If you wanted to experiment, get a set of Akabono pads, the Japanese ones, Akabono, and you'll probably see those won't spark if you buy the Akabono ceramic one.
So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.